ahead.
Shortly, we'll be joining Jim Jorgensen down at the start line for the Women's Collegiate Varsity. This is the second of 2 heats, and we will have Virginia, Southern Cal, Washington State, UCLA, Texas, and Alabama in a go on this one.
Down here at Perez Cove, event number 10, the Women's Collegiate Varsity Invitational, Heat B, Lane 1, University of Virginia. Lane 2, University of Southern California. Lane 3, Washington State University. Lane 4, University of California, Los Angeles. Lane 5, University of Texas. And in Lane 6, University of Alabama. The aligner's flag is up. We're waiting for the starter to raise his flag. Identify the crews from 1 to 6, and then we'll have our start. The wind's starting to clock a little more westerly now, and so we're getting a little breeze from the port side of the crews.
Virginia,
which is pretty
USC,
typical as the day progresses.
Washington State, UCLA.
The starters identifying the crews
Texas,
now.
Alabama.
Here we go.
Attention. Go.
There's the start. Race number 10, Women's Collegiate Varsity Invitational. All these varsity crews cleanly away. And right now it's too close to call anybody as a leader. That being said, the Trojans from USC push their bow out in front of UCLA. So it's USC on the lead with UCLA in the second spot, about 4 seats down. Then back inside to the University of Virginia, in that third spot. Followed by Washington State, and Texas is going away. The Longhorns are hanging in here. But it's definitely the Trojans from USC, your race leader, as we get through the 250-meter mark of this 2,000-meter race. Very strong finishes as they start to lengthen even further. The coxswain now from USC is looking over at the bow of the Virginia crew, as well as the bow ball of the UCLA crew. So it's USC, your leader. Too close to call second, although I'd say Virginia in the inside lane and 1 is in the second spot. UCLA's in third. And now Texas is in the 4th position, followed by Washington State, and Alabama trails. At 500 meters, the Trojans of USC, their bow ball punches it through right now. And then it appears that Virginia is on that 2nd position, followed by UCLA, followed by Texas, Washington State, and the University of Alabama.
On the water with event number 10, this is the second part of our Women's Collegiate Varsity Invitational preliminary heats. 3 of these crews will move forward to the grand final, and they're going to be hard-pressed to put on a better show than the previous heat, in which we had a fantastic finish among the top 3 crews. Looking at our lane assignments, University of Virginia is in lane 1. In lane 2, and our current leader is USC. Washington State is in lane 3. UCLA in lane 4. Texas is pulling out of lane 5, and Alabama is stroking along in lane number 6.
In the lead at the moment, USC, as is often the case with that program. They have no early season form, and they did not compete in the head of the Charles, so they always come into this race as an unknown quantity, trying to surprise other crews. University of Virginia, who are in second place in lane 1, they finished first at the head of the Charles last October and have beaten Louisville, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Duke, and Minnesota so far this year. Washington State, also an unknown quantity in lane 3. UCLA in 4 have beaten Loyola Marymount and the University of San Diego. And Texas in 5, who had an outstanding year last year and who would have felt rightly aggrieved not to get an invitation to the NCAA championships. They've beaten Kansas State, Central Florida, and the University of San Diego so far this year, but have gone down to Oklahoma, who we saw win clearly in a previous heat of the Women's Cal Cup. Alabama, who won the Cal Cup last year and are stepping up to the Jessop-Whittier Cup this year, have beaten Jacksonville and Kansas, but have lost to Tennessee, Dayton, Notre Dame, and Louisville.
Yes, the third part. This is ours. Raced in the wind.
USC on the lead. They're in lane number 2. Virginia along the shoreline. Had to fight off UCLA in the early going, but now they've moved into that second position relatively with some ease. UCLA in 3, Texas outside 4, Washington State, and Alabama all the way out there in lane number 5.
Shut him down.
We're listening to the crew, the coxswain from Virginia, egging her crew on.
Hell yeah.
And trying to get them to move up from their second position as they are shadowing USC in lane number 2. That's the USC boat right there. And then on the shoreline side would be Virginia. So that's where the battle is right now. A little bit hard to tell exactly what the separation is at this time because of the angle of the camera. But it appears that USC continues to hang in there. But as you can hear, the lady from Virginia is letting her crew know they need to hustle.
Go get them. 2. Yeah, they're coming in to stern. 3. Coming in to stern.
Looks as though Virginia are coming back
5. In step.
on USC. The University of Virginia have had a good third 500. And it looks as though they've pushed back on USC. We'll have to see how the angle works itself out as we look down the race course. It looks like it's very tight between those two crews at the moment.
In mark right here. 2. Right in mark. 3. Show what we
Neither
got.
crew's likely
4.
to let up
We're
because
fitter.
both crews
5.
will want to get
6.
lane 1 or 2 in the final, generally considered to be the favoured lanes on this race course.
2. This one.
So whoever gets first place is more likely to get a shot at lane 1 or 2.
3. Inch there.
Second place, and you're likely to be out in lane 3 or 4 in the final.
Yeah, get him.
Depending on conditions, that may be less favoured.
Feel him there.
So it's a very tight race here between USC and Virginia, but they've separated themselves away from the rest of the field, and it appears as though it may be UCLA, who at the moment out in lane 4 are duking it out with Washington State for that third spot in the grand final.
Another up, that's 1. Last 250. 2. All the way.
In the gold shell, this is USC on the lead on the shoreline. As we've heard, the Virginia coxswain trying to get her crew to close it down. They have some open water back to Washington State. UCLA on the lead in the battle for the third position, and that would be the important move it on position. Looking back at the leadership, it is USC and Virginia on the shoreline, but the race to watch right now is UCLA with Washington State challenging and Texas on the outside, Alabama trailing. On the leadership, it is USC apparently holding off Virginia for the unofficial win, but let's watch in the middle. It is UCLA on the outside. Check that, and Washington State towards the shoreline. It is UCLA in their powder blue. Looks like they may get up and jump into that third spot, followed by Washington State outside to Texas, and then Alabama. The all-important battle for third place to move on to the grand final, and it looks like UCLA unofficially will claim that position. They are on the outside on our screen there in their powder blue and white shell, and they're moving along to pick up what apparently will be that third position as they hold off Washington State.
And you can see the effort that the UCLA crew put in. Several athletes in a state of semi-collapse there. They've obviously put everything into that race to make sure they reach the grand final. Coming up, we have a real departure from the Crew Classic. And I say that because this race, as race goers will know, has always been an eights regatta. And for the first time this year, the organisers have included a women's 4 event. The reason for that, of course,